I found my wife's hidden spreadsheet calculating the exact cost of leaving me. It sounds like something out of a bad Lifetime movie, right? Like, who actually does that? Turns out, my wife does. And it's not just a few scribbled notes on a napkin. This is organized, clinical even, like she's planning a hostile takeover, not an exit from our marriage. And the cold, hard numbers staring back at me, laid out in neat columns and rows, are starting to feel like a death sentence. But before we dive headfirst into the mess I'm in, a quick word. If this story resonates with you, if you've ever felt blindsided or wondered what goes on behind closed doors, do me a favor. Hit that subscribe button, ring the bell so you don't miss the next part. And if you're feeling generous, give this a like, share it with someone who might need to hear it, and leave a comment. Seriously, your thoughts mean a lot right now, and I'm going to need all the support I can get. It all started, I guess, with that lingering smell of, I don't even know, cheap perfume. Not her brand, not hers at all. I'd catch it sometimes, a faint whisper on her coat when she came home late from work drinks. Work drinks. That was the new catch-all phrase for whatever it was she was doing. She'd been working crazy hours, or so she said, at that new marketing firm downtown. Big client wins, high-pressure deadlines, the usual corporate grind. I bought it, hook, line, and sinker. I'm a contractor myself, I get the grind. I'd be up late too sometimes, hunched over blueprints, the smell of sawdust and late-night coffee thick in the air of my home office. We'd text sometimes, brief, efficient messages about dinner or who was picking up the dry cleaning. On my way. Long day. Love you. That kind of thing. And I'd send back a similar text, a digital peck on the cheek. We were a unit, a team, navigating the choppy waters of our late 30s, trying to build something solid. Or so I thought. The perfume thing, I'd dismiss it. Air freshener in the office, someone's scent clinging to our clothes from a meeting. My brain, bless its naive little heart, was always looking for the simplest explanation, the one that didn't involve this spreadsheet. Her laptop. It's a sleek silver thing, usually perched on the kitchen island while she answers emails before dinner, or on the couch scrolling through social media while we watch some mindless show. It's part of the furniture, really, an extension of her. So when I needed to look up something about our homeowner's insurance and her laptop was the only one handy, it wasn't weird. I just needed to log in. I know her password. Of course I do. We've been married 10 years. It's our anniversary date, something stupidly sentimental. Except tonight, it wasn't quite right. I typed it in, and it asked for a verification code. Two-factor authentication. What the hell? Since when? I figured she'd enabled it for security, which, again, sensible.
So I tapped her on the shoulder. Hey, honey, did you set up two-factor on your laptop? It's asking for a code. She flinched, almost imperceptibly, her eyes darting to the screen for a split second. Oh, yeah, just a new security thing they're rolling out. I'll send you the code. She was already on her phone, tapping away. It felt a little off, a little too quick, but I was tired. The client meeting had been a killer, and I just wanted to get my insurance info. She sent me the code, I typed it in, and I was in. The insurance thing was done in under 5 minutes, but as I was closing the browser windows, I saw it. A file, right there on her desktop. Project Nightingale. That's not an insurance term. Curiosity, that gnawing, insidious beast, started to stir. I told myself it was just a work project, something she was excited about. Maybe it was a new campaign, something she wanted to brainstorm. I clicked. It opened in Excel. And the title of the spreadsheet was Project Nightingale. And the first tab was labeled Exit Strategy Phase 1. My breath hitched. Exit strategy. My mind, which had been so quick to rationalize the perfume, the late nights, the two-factor authentication, slammed to a halt. This wasn't a work project. This was something else. My fingers, suddenly clumsy and trembling, scrolled down. The spreadsheet was divided into categories: assets, liabilities, custody/visitation, legal fees, emotional distress. Each one was meticulously detailed. Under assets, it listed the house, its estimated market value, our joint savings account, my 401k with an exact current balance I didn't even know, her Roth IRA, the cars, the equity in my business. It was all there. Figures I'd never even considered, meticulously calculated. It was like she'd hired an auditor to dissect our entire life, our shared existence, into a series of financial transactions. Then came liabilities, student loans, our joint credit card debt, the mortgage. But then there were other things. Potential alimony calculation, 7 years duration, child support estimate if applicable, division of shared property. And then, tucked away, almost an afterthought, emotional damages, estimated claim. Estimated claim. For what? For being me? My chest tightened. This wasn't just about dividing things up. This was about her painting me as the villain, about building a case. I scrolled to the next tab, custody/visitation. There were no kids. We didn't have kids. We'd always talked about it, planned for it, but life had gotten in the way, careers, timing. It had become this quiet, unspoken ache between us, a chapter we'd always intended to write but never quite got around to. So why was there a section on custody? Unless it was a preemptive strike, something she was considering, something she wanted to be prepared for if the unthinkable happened. A chilling thought crept in. Was she already looking?
Looking for someone else. The perfume, the late nights, it all clicked into a horrifying, unbearable picture. Legal fees. She'd itemized them. Retainer fees for a divorce attorney, court costs, mediation expenses. She'd even factored in the possibility of needing a forensic accountant to dig into my business finances. Me. My business. The thing I'd poured my blood, sweat, and tears into for the last 8 years. She wanted to dissect that too. And then there was emotional distress, estimated claim. Underneath this heading, there were bullet points. Years of perceived neglect, unmet emotional needs, witnessing financial strain, impact of lifestyle differences. Each point was followed by a dollar amount. I felt a wave of nausea wash over me. Perceived neglect, unmet emotional needs. Was this how she saw our life? Did she feel so utterly alone, so unfulfilled that she'd reached this point? And the worst part was, in the suffocating silence of that moment, with the spreadsheet glowing in the dim light of the kitchen, a tiny, traitorous part of me wondered if she had a point. Had I been so focused on building our future, on providing, that I'd forgotten to nurture the present? I stumbled back from the laptop, my legs feeling like lead. The kitchen suddenly felt too small, the air too thick to breathe. I walked into the living room, the TV still playing its silent, meaningless commentary. I sat on the couch, the same couch I'd shared with her 1,000 times, and stared at the blank wall. My mind was a whirlwind of accusations, of justifications, of sheer, unalterated panic. This wasn't a fight. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This was war. A war she had meticulously planned, calculated, and prepared for, while I was blissfully unaware, building our life on what I thought were solid foundations. I remembered a conversation from last month. We were at a friend's anniversary party, celebrating 20 years. Everyone was laughing, reminiscing. She'd squeezed my hand a little too tight and whispered, 10 years. It feels like a lifetime, doesn't it? I'd laughed it off, thinking she meant it in a good way, that we'd built so much together. Now that whisper echoed in my ears, laced with a chilling new meaning. I looked at her wedding ring, sitting on the bedside table in our bedroom, glinting under the faint streetlight. She'd taken it off this morning, complaining it was too tight after that big dinner we'd had. Another detail I'd glossed over, another tiny sign I'd missed. Now it felt like a discarded trophy, a symbol of a game she'd already decided to forfeit. The wedding ring, the spreadsheet, the perfume, the late nights. It was all adding up, a terrifyingly coherent picture of betrayal. Who was she meeting? What was this Project Nightingale really about? Was it about leaving me for someone else? Or was it just about freedom? About reclaiming a life she felt was slipping away? The questions hammered at my brain, each one more painful than the last. I picked up my phone, my thumb hovering over her contact. Should I call her? Confront her? Demand answers? But what would I say? Hey, I found your secret spreadsheet detailing how to break my heart and ruin me financially. What's up? The thought was absurd, pathetic. I spent the next few hours in a daze, pacing the house, replaying every moment, every word, every glance. I looked at photos of us, smiling, happy, unsuspecting. Were those smiles genuine? Or were they masks, carefully constructed to hide the growing chasm between us? The emptiness in the house was deafening.
a stark contrast to the chaotic storm raging inside me. I felt a profound sense of loss, not just of a marriage, but of the very reality I thought I inhabited. It was like waking up in a familiar room, only to discover the walls were made of cardboard and the floor was about to give way. I crept back into the office. The laptop was still open, the spreadsheets still glowing. I couldn't tear myself away. It was a morbid fascination, a desperate need to understand the depth of this deception. I scrolled through her notes, her calculations. She'd even estimated the cost of changing our joint Netflix account password. The sheer pettiness of it, juxtaposed with the enormity of the betrayal, was almost laughable, if it weren't so devastating. There was a section titled New Beginnings, Estimated Costs. It included a budget for a new apartment, furniture, even a mental health retreat. She was already living in her head, in her future, a future that didn't include me. And then I saw it, tucked away at the very bottom of the Exit Strategy tab, a small, almost hidden section. It was a list of potential dates marked with different colored cells, red, amber, green. Underneath, a single line of text, barely legible. Decision point, finalizing timeline. I zoomed in, my heart pounding. The dates, they were all in the next 2 weeks. The red cells were clustered around the end of this month. That was it. The plan wasn't just in motion, it was reaching its climax. She was on the verge of executing her meticulously crafted exit. And I had stumbled upon it, a ghost in my own home, reading the autopsy report of our marriage. The urge to slam the laptop shut, to pretend I'd never seen it, was almost overwhelming. But I couldn't. The cold, hard reality was laid bare. The question now wasn't if she was leaving, but when and how she intended to do it. And the dates were terrifyingly close. I felt a knot of pure dread tighten in my stomach, the kind that tells you everything is about to change. Irrevocably. I was trapped, staring into the abyss of her plan, with no idea how to pull myself out, or if I even could. The clock was ticking, and I was completely, utterly unprepared. The silence in the house became a physical weight. It pressed in on me, amplifying the frantic beat of my own pulse.
I'd been staring at that spreadsheet for what felt like hours, but it was probably only 20 minutes. The digital clock on the microwave glowed 2:17 a.m. My mind, a chaotic mess of disbelief and dawning horror, kept circling back to those dates, the red cells, the decision point. It meant this wasn't just a contingency plan anymore. It was active. It was imminent. I looked at the laptop screen again, the glowing numbers and words feeling alien, like a language I suddenly couldn't comprehend, even though I was fluent. Project Nightingale. What kind of name was that for ending a marriage? It sounded gentle, deceptive, like a lullaby sung to a child before they're told something terrible. And that's exactly what it felt like, a cruel, calculated lullaby. I felt a surge of anger, hot and sharp, rising through the confusion. Anger at her, at the years of what? Was it neglect on my part? Or was it something else entirely, something I couldn't even begin to fathom? The perceived neglect and unmet emotional needs lines burned in my brain. Were those just excuses she'd scribbled down to justify what she was doing? Or was there some truth to them? That thought, the sliver of doubt, was the most infuriating part. It chipped away at my certainty, making me question everything. I went into the kitchen, poured myself a glass of water, my hand shaking so badly I spilled some on the counter. I didn't bother to wipe it up. My eyes landed on the empty spot on the island where her laptop usually sat. It felt like a gaping wound in the heart of our home. The coffee maker sat cold. The fruit bowl was half empty. The mundane details of our shared life, usually a source of comfort, now felt like props in a play I was no longer meant to be in. I walked to the window, looking out at the dark, quiet street. Streetlights cast long shadows on the manicured lawns of our neighbors, everyone asleep, unaware of the seismic shift that had just occurred within these four walls. Did anyone else suspect? Had anyone seen her? The perfume, the late nights, the subtle changes in her demeanor I had brushed aside as stress from work. She's just tired, I told myself. She's working hard. God, I was an idiot, a complete and utter fool.
The thought of confronting her, it was paralyzing. What would I say? How would I even begin to articulate the wreckage I felt inside? And what would she say? Would she deny it? Lie even more convincingly? Or would she, in a chilling display of her meticulous planning, calmly confirm my worst fears, armed with her spreadsheet as her defense? The image of her, cool and collected, explaining her calculations, made my stomach churn. I drifted into our bedroom. The room felt strangely unfamiliar. Her side of the bed was neatly made, undisturbed. Mine was rumpled from where I had tossed and turned earlier. It was a visual representation of our lives, I guess. Her world, carefully constructed and maintained.
Mine, a chaotic mess I was trying to navigate. Her wedding ring. I picked it up from the nightstand. It felt cold and heavy in my palm. This symbol of our commitment, now just another object on her checklist of things to shed. I turned it over in my fingers. 10 years. 10 years of building, of dreaming, of believing, and all of it, apparently, was just a temporary arrangement for her. A sudden, sharp memory flashed. Her laughing, a few months ago, when I'd surprised her with tickets to that concert she'd wanted to see. She'd thrown her arms around me, burying her face in my chest. "I love you so much," she'd whispered. "What would I ever do without you?" The words, so full of genuine affection then, now felt like a cruel taunt. Had she already been plotting my demise then? Was this all a performance? The thought was a bitter pill to swallow. I needed to do something, anything. I couldn't just sit here and wait for the inevitable. But what? Calling her lawyer? That felt too extreme, too aggressive. Confronting her directly? I still didn't have the words, the strength. The spreadsheet. It was the evidence, undeniable and damning, but it was also a weapon, and I didn't know how to wield it. I found myself back in the home office, the faint glow of my own laptop screen illuminating the space. I opened my email, a flood of work-related messages. Clients, deadlines, the usual. But it all felt distant, irrelevant now. My focus was entirely consumed by Project Nightingale. I opened a new tab, my fingers instinctively typing her name into the search bar. I was looking for, I didn't know what. Confirmation? A reason? A name? The search results flickered across the screen. Social media profiles, old news articles about her previous jobs, a brief mention in a local business journal. Nothing out of the ordinary. And then, an advertisement. A sponsored link. Looking for a change? Discover your next chapter. I almost scrolled past it, but something about the wording, next chapter, it echoed her spreadsheet's new beginnings. I clicked it out of sheer, morbid curiosity. It led me to a website for a life coaching and personal development retreat. The tagline was, "Unlock your potential, reclaim your life." The images were of serene landscapes, smiling people radiating peace and contentment. There was a testimonial section. I scrolled through them, a growing sense of unease settling in my gut. Phrases like, "Found my true self," "Broke free from limitations," "Embraced a new path" kept appearing. It felt eerily similar to the language I imagined she might use to justify her exit. Then I saw it. A specific retreat program. The Phoenix Rising Experience. Dates listed. And beneath them, a brief description. This intensive program is designed for individuals seeking a profound transformation, enabling them to shed the past and boldly step into a brighter future. It sounded so positive, so aspirational. And the dates, they aligned disturbingly well with the red cells on her spreadsheet. I clicked on the program details. It offered one-on-one coaching, intensive workshops, and a comprehensive toolkit for rebuilding your life, independent of past circumstances. My heart hammered against my ribs. This wasn't just a vacation. This was a structured, professionally facilitated escape plan. And the cost, listed clearly on the page. It was a substantial amount, an amount I now recognized from her spreadsheet, tucked away under New Beginnings, Estimated Costs,
listed as rebuilding program fee. She hadn't just calculated the cost of leaving, she'd budgeted for her own personal reinvention, funded by the dissolution of our marriage. This was more than just a spreadsheet. This was her roadmap, her escape hatch. And she had been actively preparing for it, meticulously planning every detail for who knows how long. The perfume, the late nights, the evasive answers, they weren't just symptoms of a failing marriage. They were active steps in her orchestrated departure. I leaned back in my chair, the cold dread intensifying. The website advertised upcoming sessions. I scanned the dates. The first available one, the one that seemed to align with her decision point, was just days away. Days, not weeks, not months, days. My carefully constructed world, the one I thought I was building with her, had been crumbling for a long time, and I hadn't even realized it was under construction. And then, as I scrolled further down the page, a name caught my eye. Not a testimonial writer, but a featured guest speaker listed for that particular retreat. A name I'd heard her mention, casually, a few times over the past few months. Someone she'd met at a networking event. A motivational guru, she'd called him. Inspiring stuff, she'd said, with that little spark in her eyes that I'd misinterpreted as professional interest. His name was Mark Sterling, and he was listed as a keynote speaker for the very retreat that seemed to be the culmination of Project Nightingale. The connection hit me like a physical blow. Mark Sterling. I'd Googled him myself once, out of idle curiosity. He was a big deal in the self-help and personal transformation circuit. His books were bestsellers, his seminars were packed, and he was known for his persuasive techniques for helping people break free from what was holding them back. Was he the reason for the perfume? Was he the architect of her newfound desire for a brighter future? Was this entire elaborate plan, this spreadsheet, this Project Nightingale, all leading to him? To a life with him? The betrayal twisted, becoming something far more personal, far more devastating than just a simple affair. It was a calculated, orchestrated escape, possibly with a new partner already in place. The thought was unbearable.
The carefully constructed facade of our marriage had just been ripped away, revealing a chillingly deliberate and potentially devastating agenda. I felt a primal urge to smash something, to scream, to lash out, but all I could manage was a choked gasp. The clock was ticking, and the future she'd so meticulously planned was about to crash down on my present, and I was still sitting here, staring at a screen, utterly lost. The website's serene images seemed to mock me now, the smiling faces a grotesque charade against the backdrop of my unraveling life. Mark Sterling. The name echoed in the sterile silence of the office, each syllable a fresh stab. Motivational guru, relationship coach, or was he just the latest in a line of distractions, a convenient exit strategy? The perfume, the late nights, the vague answers about networking events, it all coalesced into a sickening picture, a tapestry of deceit woven with 1,000 tiny threads of casual lies. She hadn't just been unhappy, she'd been actively preparing for this, for an escape, for him. I stared at the screen, my vision blurring with unshed tears, my breath coming in ragged gasps. My hand instinctively reached for my phone, the smooth glass cool against my trembling fingertips. Who was I going to call? Her? To scream at her, demand an explanation, to beg her to tell me it wasn't true? The thought was absurd. She'd have her answers ready, polished and pre-rehearsed. Her spreadsheet, her phoenix rising, her Mark Sterling. My thumb hovered over her contact, the familiar name etched in my phone now feeling like a foreign entity. I couldn't. Not yet. I needed to understand how. How had we gotten here? How had I missed it? The years we'd spent building this life, the inside jokes, the shared dreams of retirement, the silly arguments over what movie to watch, the way she'd hummed off-key when she was happy. Had that all been a lie? Was I the only one who had believed in it, truly invested in it? A wave of nausea washed over me. I pushed back from the desk, the chair scraping loudly against the hardwood floor, a jarring intrusion into the night's oppressive quiet. I needed air. I needed to escape this room, this digital portal to my own destruction.
I walked out of the office, my bare feet patting silently on the plush carpet of the hallway. The house was a mausoleum now, filled with the ghosts of a life that was no longer mine. I ended up in the living room, the dark shapes of furniture silhouetted against the faint glow from the streetlights outside. I sank onto the sofa, burying my face in my hands. The sheer scale of her deception was crushing. It wasn't a momentary lapse, a foolish mistake. This was calculated. This was planned. Project Nightingale. The gentle name, the one I dismissed as just another corporate buzzword, now felt like a sinister euphemism for the methodical dismantling of my world. Guilt gnawed at me. Had I been too busy?
Too focused on work, on providing? Had I become so comfortable, so complacent, that I'd stopped truly seeing her? The thought that I might have somehow contributed to this, that my own flaws had paved the way for her betrayal, was almost as unbearable as the betrayal itself. I had always prided myself on being a good husband, a steady presence. Now, that image shattered, leaving behind a hollow shell of self-doubt. I thought of her laugh, the way her nose crinkled when she was amused, the scent of her hair when she leaned her head on my shoulder. Was any of that real? Or was it all just part of her performance, her way of keeping me placid while she plotted her escape? The ambiguity was torture. I wanted to hate her, to rage against the injustice of it all. But a part of me, the part that still remembered the woman I loved, couldn't entirely let go. My phone vibrated in my pocket. I flinched, startled. Who could it be at this hour? I pulled it out, my heart leaping into my throat. Unknown number. I hesitated, then answered, my voice raspy. Hello. Silence. Then, a low, gravelly voice, tinged with something that sounded like concern? Or maybe just professionally honed empathy. Is this my name? My blood ran cold. Who is this? My name is Daniel Hayes, the voice said, slow and deliberate. I'm an attorney. I received a rather unusual preliminary inquiry this evening regarding a marital dissolution. My breath hitched. Attorney. Marital dissolution. It was happening. It was already in motion. What unusual inquiry? I managed, my voice barely a whisper. Her name, Hayes continued, his tone muttered. She retained my firm. She's instructed us to begin the preliminary stages of a divorce. She provided a considerable amount of documentation, including a rather detailed financial overview and projected asset division proposal. I gripped the phone tighter, my knuckles white. Financial overview. Projected asset division proposal. That spreadsheet. She'd given it to her lawyer. She was already one step ahead. A proposal. I choked out. Yes, Hayes confirmed. Extremely organized. Frankly, it's one of the most comprehensive initial packets I've ever received. Very clear about her objectives. She's been preparing for this for some time, it appears. Preparing. The word hung in the air, heavy with implication. How long? I asked, my voice cracking. Hayes paused, and I could almost hear him consulting something. The documentation suggests active planning for at least the past 18 months, potentially longer. 18 months, a year and a half. While I was planning our next vacation, while I was telling her I loved her, she was actively planning to leave me. The betrayal, already a gaping wound, now felt like a chasm opening beneath me. She didn't say anything to me. I stammered. We were fine. Her name indicated that the decision was unilateral, Hayes replied, his voice devoid of emotion, and that she preferred to initiate the process without prior discussion. She expressed concerns about emotional escalation. Emotional escalation. That was her way of saying she didn't want to deal with me when I inevitably fell apart. She wanted it clean, clinical, a transaction. And the finances? I asked, my mind racing. The assets? What did she propose? A sudden, overwhelming wave of anger, raw and primal, surged through me. It wasn't the confused, hurt anger from earlier. This was a cold, hard fury. I wanted to smash something. I wanted to scream her name until my lungs burned. I wanted to drive to wherever she was, wherever they were, and just obliterate everything. But I knew I wouldn't. I knew I'd do none of those things. That wasn't me. I was the one who followed the rules, who played by the book. And now, the book had been rewritten, and I was no longer a player. I was the discarded piece. I walked back into the home office, the laptop screen still glowing, a testament to the Pandora's box I had opened. Project Nightingale. The name felt like a curse now. I closed the laptop, the click echoing in the silence. I couldn't look at it anymore. I couldn't think about her plan, her escape, her new beginnings. I walked towards the bedroom, the room that was supposed to be our sanctuary, now just another reminder of what I had lost. Her side of the bed was still neatly made, a stark contrast to the disarray of my own. I sat down on the edge, the mattress dipping slightly under my weight. I looked at the nightstand. Her wedding ring was gone. It wasn't there. Had she taken it? Or had she left it somewhere specific? Another calculated move. I stood up, a decision forming in my mind, not born of courage, but of a desperate need to reclaim some semblance of control. I couldn't just sit here and wait for the storm to hit. I had to face it. I had to face her. I went to the closet, pulled out a suitcase. My hands moved with a strange, detached efficiency. I packed a few changes of clothes, toiletries, my laptop. The mundane act of packing felt surreal. I was leaving the house, the life, the person I thought I was. As I zipped up the suitcase, my eyes fell on a small framed photo tucked away on a shelf. It was of us, younger, standing in front of our first apartment building. We were smiling, full of hope. I picked it up, tracing her face with my thumb. The woman in the photo was a stranger now. The man beside her, the one who believed in forever, was a ghost. I put the photo back, carefully. I wouldn't take it. I wouldn't carry the past with me, not into whatever future awaited. I walked out of the bedroom, the suitcase in my hand. I didn't look back. The house was silent, still holding its breath, waiting for the dawn. I walked out the front door, into the cool pre-dawn air. The streetlights cast long, lonely shadows. My car was parked in the driveway, a silent, metallic beast waiting to carry me away. I unlocked it, opened the door, and dropped the suitcase onto the passenger seat. I got in, the familiar scent of leather and stale coffee a faint comfort. I started the engine, the low rumble a counterpoint to the silence of the night. I put the car in reverse, backing out of the driveway, the tires crunching softly on the gravel.
As I drove down the street, the houses dark and quiet, I glanced in the rearview mirror. The house. Our house. It looked small and insignificant against the vastness of the night sky. There was no dramatic music, no cinematic sweep. Just the hum of the engine, the soft glow of the dashboard lights, and the crushing weight of reality. I didn't know where I was going. I had no plan, no destination. Just the instinct to put distance between myself and the wreckage. The spreadsheet was in the past. Project Nightingale was a nightmare I was waking from, however slowly, however painfully. The sun was just beginning to paint the eastern horizon with hues of orange and purple. A new day. A terrifyingly empty new day. I took a deep, shaky breath, the air filling my lungs, cool and clean. It tasted like survival.
That was all. Just survival.